Hey guys, this look is inspired by none other than Amphitrite, wife of Poseidon, goddess of the sea, and apparently the third one who encircles the sea. Yeah, I don't know what that means either. Anywho, the first thing to do is to make these tentacle things, which kind of remind me of sea anemone. An anemone? To make them, I cut off a piece of craft wire. Please be careful when you do this because they have a tendency to jump and they can become a little bit sharp. I make a loop at one end, which you'll see why I do that later. Next, wrap tape around it, leaving the loop uncovered. You can use any tape, I just chose blue masking tape because I wanted it to look like there's blue inside of the tentacles. Now to shaping them. I made mine twist and bend like roots, but have fun with this. You can connect more wires to this one to get a cool branching effect or make it completely twisty or, stand out straight. The world's your oyster. I'm sure by now everyone has heard of latex paste, but in case you've been living under a sea rock, it's an eyeball mixture of latex and some flour, or any powder you have on hand. There's no real measurement to it, but always go slow with adding flour. You can always put more in, but you can't take it out. Once it's this porridgey mixture, you're ready to go. Now just mush it all on there. I used a spatula to cover up the tape, but I left it generally uneven and bumpy because I thought it looked more organic that way. But a good tip if you use latex paste is to put on regular latex after. This fills in some of the gaps and smooths it all out. Now we just have to let this puppy dry, which is why I added the loop in the wire. I take one of these paper clip things and attach it to a corner of a table or my workboard. Then I would place the loop in the middle of one of these metal things and string a toothpick through. And voila, a little drying rack. Now you're gonna need a face. A face cast. If you don't have one, you can easily work on a flat surface or even a bowl. Powder away at your dry tentacles. The nice thing about this is that you can still adjust the shape of it even after the latex coatings, and it gives this translucent effect. You're gonna need a few of them. Figure out how you want them to sit and make another batch of latex paste. I found it easiest to lay a base of latex before placing the tentacle. Then I would cover it over and find something to prop it up in the way I want it to sit while it dries. In between them, you can always take a hairdryer to make them dry a little faster. I also went over them with some regular latex just to make the transition a little bit smoother. When they've dried enough, you can easily slide out the objects propping them up and they'll stay in their place. If you don't like how they're positioned, it's still easy to bend the wires to your liking. And when you're working on the other side, a cat might sit on the original ones, but luckily it passed the strength test. I wanted to make the two sides bridge into one another, which is why I made the pseudonasal bone. I used a reference photo of a skull and loosely based it on that. Again, I'm using latex paste and going over it with regular latex. Make sure you put down some latex in the middle of the nose as well. Just like my boogeyman tutorial, I'm going to stipple around 4 to 5 layers of latex down on the areas I want to add the muscly texture over. In between waiting for layers to dry, start unrolling cotton balls and ripping them into smaller strips. What I like to do is lay down small sections of latex before placing down my cotton strip, then soaking the edges before adding more latex over this. I find this works best for me to be able to shape them exactly how I want them without them moving all over the place. I use these to help bring the parts sticking out of the face back into it, as if they all stem from under my skin and more were growing out, if that makes any sense. Onto the forehead piece. I had originally planned that I would have more tentacles here, but decided it might draw away from the actual detail of it. So while I chose to go for a simpler look, you could easily add more to it. Once again, I did this with latex paste and went over it with regular latex. I chose to paint this with alcohol palettes because I wanted that translucent under the skin wash. Of course, if you don't have alcohol palettes, you can mix a bit of cream makeup or lipstick with some isopropyl alcohol and create a similar wash. You don't necessarily need fancy products to make certain effects, sometimes it just takes a little creativity. I'm mixing colors together to somewhat match the blue tape and applying that all over the cheek area. I also added a dark purple and deep areas to add some depth, as well as a little bit of red for texture. You can see that I'm constantly going back and forth between colors and playing around until I find something that I like. I paint the nose piece white before going back in with a light brown into deeper areas to make it look like a slightly more yellowy bone. An easy way to create more texture is to take a cosmetic sponge and rip chunks out of it. With this, I go back in with an off-white to go over everything, making it look more like our tentacles. Once everything was dry, I started applying baby powder everywhere and gently pulling the prosthetic off. With all the layers I did, my prosthetic was sturdy enough to come off without any tearing. but if you're having some trouble pulling yours off, take a fluffy brush with powder and apply it as you go. Naked face. I'm using the makeup I already have on and popped in some blue eye contacts, which I am totally not used to wearing. And it's what I'm blaming for being out of focus and missing the last step. I applied an eyeshadow base before giving myself a little black eye action going on with that deep purple. Here I'm going over those spots with a darker brown, focusing on the groove of my eye into my eyebrow, the inner corner and socket with a small angled brush before smudging it out with a fluffy brush in my fingers. Onto the other eye. I wanted to give this an avant-garde look, so I went with a bright orange eyeshadow and placed it in random spots. Channel your inner clownfish. My thought process was one side would look more like the water during night, rough and dark, while the other side would look like daytime or life with more vibrant colors. Get ready for some weird faces. I go back in with a red cream paint, creating little strokes inside the orange we placed down. I do the same with the gold glittery eyeliner. Now comes the eyeliner. As I said before, I wanted this side to be dark and rough, so I went for a thicker line with little strokes at the end by the socket of my eye. I didn't care too much if it got onto my eyelid or somewhere else because, well, I wanted it messy. I gave myself a big wing, then added a line following my eye socket. I smudged some eyeliner into where I put the purple shadow, just to make it a bit darker and chaotic. Then I went a little bit crazy with it. On the other side, I wanted my lines to be a little bit more delicate. Still slightly messy, but not too crazy. I drew along my eye socket and split off into two wings, then I added spots here and there as well as lines on my eyebrow to match the other side. I gave myself a thin wing before dragging off a little parenthesis-shaped curve off of it. Finally, I put a small line along the outer third under my waterline and a curved shape near my tear duct. Look a little bit crazy, then add lashes. To apply this, I put Prosade on my forehead and the back of a piece, letting it go clear before sticking it on. You can also use latex or spirit gum if you don't have Prosade. Find out where you want your prosthetic to sit. As before, put a coat of Prosade both on the back of the piece and the area of your face. Get super serious and put your hair up. Once it's gone clear, firmly press the piece where you want it and hold it there for a few seconds. If you don't like where it is, now's the time to pull it off. I always like to go back in with a stubble sponge or even a cut dish sponge with latex or Prosade to go over the edges. It helps blend rough edges in and also gives a nice skin texture to the piece. Just be careful going near the eye with it. Eyes are important. I go back in with the same mixture of blue alcohol paints over my forehead, contours of my cheek, and neck. I give a few passes of this to build up layers. I stipple on some red just to create a bit of contrast, and then very lightly go in with some purple. Then I release the hair. Finally, I put a line of gold liquid lipstick in the center of my bottom lip, because that seems goddessy, right? And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. The look was simple and easy to make and super fun to wear, as my dance clearly shows. Anyways, see you guys!